on Crypto Banter. He does make his own shows, I think, every single day. He focuses on the big trends and the small trends. But the one thing that is really absolutely the best in the world at is, I think, the small cap gem mining. So I've got Elliotrades with me right here on our show. Elio, welcome to Crypto Banter.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ren.
Yeah, our display is calling you Charles, so I'm going to just change that. And now we've got you as Elliotrades.
I'll take it.
Welcome to Crypto Banter, man. I must say I'm a big fan of your station. I keep watching, and as soon as I got off my show last night, the first thing I did was check what you posted, and you just posted about the cover protocol hack. And I guess that must have been quite tricky for you, because you have called it previously on your show as one of the tokens that you actually like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me, I made it clear when I covered cover that the reason why I liked it was the space, right? It's not about, when you're looking at an emerging trend like insurance, which objectively is pretty new, it's not about saying this protocol is going to win. When you think about insurance from a conceptual standpoint, you understand that the insurance is there to provide a safety net in the event that pretty much, the unthinkable happens, exploits, hacks, bugs, some kind of failure of the system. And when you're thinking about the tens of billions that are coming into DeFi, it's not possible to get those big dollar signs in. And when you're thinking about the hundreds of billions, the trillions of dollars in traditional finance, there needs to be a safety net. Now, a safety net cannot be comprised of a single protocol, because in and of itself, that protocol has vulnerabilities. So, the point I made on my video yesterday is that the stinging irony about the cover hack is that it proves the space. It proves the need for this industry, right? And so you're saying that this niche that cover is a part of the decentralized insurance, though cover obviously suffered an exploit, I do think that they have a plan to sort of fork and reissue and all that stuff. We've seen, tokens kind of bounce back with that plan. The more important thing is that there needs to be multiple insurance providers. And I've said this from the beginning, which is why I didn't bet on just a single coin when I did my initial coverage of insurance. I bet on the entire space. I bought every single insurance coin, and I'll continue to do that, because there are going to be some huge winners, I believe, in that space. And they're going to need to cross-insure each other. And that's one of the biggest things, is that they cannot just be insured in a vacuum. They need to cross-insure each other. And therefore, any one winner will need to rely on external insurance protocols. In my opinion, I believe that that's going to be the future of the decentralized insurance niche. And so, ironically, the cover hack proves the need for cover and every other decentralized insurance product.
And that's definitely a theme that you keep looking at. So for some of our viewers and our listeners around the world who don't know who you are and don't know what you do, I've given a small introduction about who you are. I watch your YouTube channels a lot. You make a whole lot of them. A lot of them focus on very early stage projects. And I take it that that's a sign of your investment approach. I also pulled up this tweet, which I absolutely loved. The tweet says, ETH can make you rich, but gems can make you ETH. And that, I think, really summarizes your investment philosophy. Tell us a little bit about how you invest, what your outlook is, and how to make money in the space, and how you place your chips.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ren. I do have a lot of fun on Twitter. And, the thing about the space is it evolves. And I was kind of like everybody else back in 2017, 2018. I wanted to believe that there was these disruptor protocols, and I still do, to a degree, believe that there are these disruptor protocols that are going to come and they're just going to eat everything in its way. Ripple's going to eat the banks, and, what is it? EOS is going to take over and decentralize whatever the protocol that you fell in love with. That protocol was supposed to just keep going and growing and have sort of like a Facebook effect. And the reality is that all these things are possible. But what I started to realize in 2020 is that the bigger, older protocols tend to sort of just wait for these big macro movements in the market. And it sort of felt like you were playing the waiting game by waiting on these protocols. And you're kind of, in my opinion, just hoping, right? You're hoping. And it kind of takes away the value of your research. So say you're someone who likes to research a lot, and you like to know everything about a project. If you're doing all that good work, and then in the end, you're just crossing your fingers and waiting, then to me, it's like, why did you do the research? Where is the fruit of your labor? And so when you actually go a little bit further down the market caps and you find the newer projects, ones that people don't know about, and you're able to separate the good from the bad, what you do is you're able to usually find things before they have their sort of coming out party. And if you're able to do that, then even if things retrace a bit, you know, if you find something at under a 5 million market cap, under a 1 million market cap, and it has a nice little explosive sort of initial FOMO moment, a FOMO moment, if you will, that can lead to a nice pop in the price. And even if it rescinds back a little bit, usually if you get there pretty early, or if you're there before the big party, you'll still be sitting on some gains, right? And so, and that can happen pretty quickly, right? Because there's enough liquidity in the market to always move these small caps up and down pretty hard. And so you don't need a huge motion from Bitcoin to the tune of 100 to 200% gains, then a sort of, you know, stalling out of Bitcoin, then money moves into the big caps. You don't need to have these things that only happen once every couple of years, once every 6 months or 12 months. You don't have to wait on that. That can happen every week. That can happen every day. And so your good work of finding these coins can be rewarded with portfolio changes in a very short amount of time. And now, of course, I preach this all the time. It's a lot more risky. You need to do a lot more preparation. You need to be really, really focused on these coins, because if you find something and it goes up 7x or 5x, you know, and it's a tiny cap coin very early in its life cycle, chances are it probably won't stay there. So I preach to people to de-risk their positions in that event, right? You take out your initials, you maybe distribute a little bit of profits into ETH, whatever your goals are. And that way, the rest of it becomes a lot smoother, a lot less risky.
Let's take one step back. And is that to say that you don't have any of your portfolio in, I'm not going to call them big bets, because I'm assuming that you are invested in some big chains, but does that mean that you don't have investments in things like Bitcoin, ETH, DOT, Cardano, the big ones, the big trends, the chains that are over $1 billion or even $500 million?
So, you know, I've been in this industry a while. I'm a professional in this industry. And so I've collected coins across a lot of chains. And of course, I have huge holdings of Ethereum and Bitcoin, which I talk about regularly. But, you know, a lot of people come into the space, and my sort of belief and the reason why I came into the space, and most of the people I know, is because they've heard about these sort of, you know, supernatural profits, the sort of rapid acceleration of wealth. And these types of things are very attractive. And then the tech becomes kind of like the explanation, right? They want to explain why this is going to happen in a logical way. But that's not what brought them in, right? You don't come in because you're like, wow, did you know that computers can process data in a decentralized way? I'm going to put all my money in. No, it starts with the financial, and then it moves to the technical. And a lot of people really want to grow their portfolios, essentially. And so if you want to grow something a little faster and have a little bit more of an active approach, to me, it's really hard to do that if you're just sitting around and waiting on alt season. So the way I do things is my new money goes into the small caps. Once those small caps have their moments, have motion, I'll distribute profits into the long-term holds. So say I really love Polkadot, right? Say I think Polkadot's just the one, you know, and I do really like Polkadot, right? If I get say I have a new fresh $1,000 I want to put into the market. Well, I don't put it directly into Polkadot. I find a gem, I find a small cap. I try to, you know, wait for it to have a sufficient movement. Then I'll take some profits from that and I'll stick it in ETH. I'll stick it in Polkadot. I'll stick it in Bitcoin. And so that's kind of how I logic around it, is my long-term holds. I even have a list of coins I call the God tier coins. And I love them, right? I think they're going to be great. But even they have, you know, arguably bad performance compared to these gems, right? You know, like we're talking about coins that I found this year that have gone, you know, 1,200% and more, while Bitcoin's done 150%. I
want to talk about those. I definitely do want to talk about them. So right now, as we speak to you, what percentage of your crypto investment money, not your wealth, but your crypto investment money, is invested in what you call the big coins, the God coins, the Bitcoin, Ethereum, DOT, and we'll actually talk about who you classify as those God coins. In fact, maybe you can give us some insights as to in your portfolio, who are the long-term holds, and what percentage of your crypto wealth is in them. And then we'll go from there into what the percentages that you allocate into the smaller trades, and what those trades and how you do those kind of things.
Yeah. So, you know, I have way over 50% of my coins in the long-term holds. And that's because that's like your wealth, right? That's like your wealth building mechanism. But, you know, the reality is I'm fortunate to have a decent sized portfolio, and you can't deploy too much money into these low cap coins, right? If you put, if you look at the markets, you'll look at a market, even take a not so small coin, like look at what happened with Cover, and they have about $3.5 million in trading volume. This was acquired by Andre Cronje and the Yearn ecosystem. Not a small coin at all. They had a big event where a lot of coins just traded hands. It's kind of high trading volume, $3.5 million for a low cap, right? You can't deploy $1 million into one of these things. You can't deploy $500,000 into one of these things, especially if you get a pop of 5-10x, right? You can't sell that, right? And so you can't deploy a ton of money into these small caps, right? You can only deploy, there's kind of an upward ceiling as to what you can deploy into them. And so that's why you really need to be doing your work to find a multitude of them so that you can deploy sort of small chunks into them, because you just can't put huge amounts of money into them.
So let's talk about what your big coins are, and then we're going to talk about your small coins. So obviously Bitcoin, Ethereum, I mean, those are, I think everybody in crypto, anyone that's in the ecosystem must have exposure to Bitcoin and Ethereum. Where do we go from there? So what's the next one? I think you mentioned Polkadot.
Polkadot's obvious. To me, Polkadot is pretty clear, right? It seems to be the flavor of 2020 in many ways. There's kind of reminds me of EOS a little bit. That energy has that big EOS energy of like, this is the one that is gonna really challenge Ethereum, and I love that, right?
Do you think it will? Do you think that it would challenge Ethereum? Do you think there is a chance that Polkadot will become, say, the third chain, or maybe, I'm not going to call it a competitor, because I think the way that Polkadot's structured, it's not designed to beat Ethereum. It's designed to work with Ethereum. But do you think that Polkadot is the number 3 project?
Yeah, that's a great, it's what I love about it is, I'm a little bit of a cynic, right? I'm a builder. I have my own projects, and I've built a lot of stuff. And, just like Charles, who was on before me, brilliant individual, and someone who you could like talk to for hours. But again, Guggen was supposed to come out in 2017, and, I'm a little bit like, I don't play the hoping game. I don't play the sitting and waiting and hoping game. I don't do that with my money, right? I don't do that with my money. I do that with my emotions, right? I'm happy to emotionally wait and say, wow, I think this might happen. But I don't bet quite literally on that. That's why I do the small cap strategy. But if you're asking if Polkadot can do that, has the opportunity, I'll believe it when I see it. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see this tech emerge. If you're asking if Cardano is going to do that, I'd love to see it, right? I'd love to see these things take shape. I'm kind of a big believer that Ethereum is kind of where it's at for a developer because of the network effects. And so, I think that Polkadot will be viable. I think Polkadot will do a lot of growth in market cap in these conditions. But do I think it's going to unseat Ethereum per se? Again, I'll believe it when I see it, right? I'll believe it when I see it.
So you've got Polkadot, you've got Cardano, you got Polkadot, you got Bitcoin, you got Ethereum. Let's carry on going through your big coins. And actually, I really want to spend much more time on the small coins because I think that that's where your forte is. But I'm trying to get a feel for the bigger projects that you're looking at first.
Yeah, I really like Polkadot. I like Kusama because they're a very critical part of the Polkadot network. There's several other projects on Polkadot that are interesting, much smaller cap that I look at as well. Gavin Wood actually covered his sort of projects to watch over the next few months. And, we'll talk about those in the smaller cap segment. As far as bigger caps, I really look, you can't ignore what Chainlink's up to and what oracles present in the space. And so I have oracles kind of as a unit there. But really the two oracles I'm most excited about are Chainlink as well as API 3. Now, the reason why I like API 3 is they were sort of a lead. And even though they're a smaller cap, their cap is it's actually a little bigger than it looks. And so, I consider them a little bigger cap, right? I consider API 3 a kind of bigger cap project. I don't consider it a low cap gem. And so I'd put it in that category. And then as far as data is concerned, you have a project called Ocean, which is doing some pretty incredible things. And so I believe what Ocean's doing is pretty unique in the space. And I think that they have a real chance to become the sort of leader, the Chainlink, the Ethereum of their sort of data marketplace sort of situation. API 3 on a nice juicy dip today.
Yeah, so I'm looking at API 3. You mentioned that there's a reason why. I think, I think with you, it's inevitable that we're actually going to get into the small cap section or the smaller cap section of the show, because I think that's where your heart is. I think your heart is nowhere near the big Bitcoins, Cardanos, and Ethereums. So let's talk specifically around how you make the investment or the category decision. So you mentioned that you like the category of oracles. Tell us what you're thinking around why you're so bullish on oracles. And then I want to talk to you specifically around API 3 and why you think that API 3 is a good investment when you can just put your money into something like Chainlink.
Yeah, so you could just put your investment into something like Chainlink. It's several $1 billion, big cap, has had a lot of legs and has an amazing community. Shout out to the Marines. Don't kill me, Marines. But the thing about it is it falls also into that category of significantly dependent upon larger macro factors. At this point, it's a huge cap, right? At this point, it's a massive cap. And there are several other people trying to eat up the little bits of that cap. And so to me, I have my bags of Chainlink. I'm not really adding to them, right? I'm not really adding to them. I'm just sort of sitting on them. If they go, they go, and they've gone a lot. And so, the reason why I like API 3 is I studied the tech. I met with the team. I knew about this project for months and months before it came to market. And these guys ran the biggest Chainlink nodes for over a year. And they saw the problems with the product. They experienced it. They tried to provide data. They tried to use it, right? And I'm big on utility, right? And so when you know what the actual issues are from firsthand experience, and then you design tech with the benefit of hindsight, you have that advantage. They actually have an advantage in some senses. Not to say Chainlink can't literally deploy something quite similar. They very well might. I've heard that they're working on first-party oracles as well. But I do think that there's something quite exciting about looking at something that's like 1/1000th the size of Chainlink with potentially an advantage.
So tomorrow we actually have an oracle on our show. It's called Bird Oracle. It's a very, very, very low cap. And that's another one of these oracle plays. Any other plays that you're looking at in the oracle space? Or are your bets basically placed on API 3, on Chainlink? And I bet you tomorrow after we speak to Bird, you're going to take some of your stack and put onto Bird.
Yeah, no, you made a great call on Bird several months ago, or several weeks ago rather. And Bird's fantastic. It fits into sort of the low cap oracle space that I've also blanketed, much like the insurance space. Another performer down there was Octo. There's also Ori. There's several sort of very small, very interesting oracle plays. Octo, we were talking about, I think at like $6, ended up hitting like 40 something, did fantastic. Again, de-risked that position and distributed some profits, and I'm happy with it. I'm not checking that. Those are those kinds of positions where you can get in early, study it, and then once it does its thing, you just kind of de-risk the position and let it sit there. And if one day in 2021 it's gone to $200, then we do a little dance. But I don't feel the need to check it all the time. I just, whenever they have news, it's great. And
all right, so the next token that you spoke about Ocean Protocol. Ocean Protocol is effectively a data protocol. I think they were incubated out of Berlin. I'm not sure if the entire team is still in Berlin. We met them when we went to Berlin. Quick highlights. What do you like about Ocean?
Yeah, Ocean, what they're doing for data marketplaces, sort of allowing for data marketplaces to exist in the blockchain world, is there's not a lot of competitors to it. And we all know the power of data. It's pretty much what makes our modern internet run. It's the biggest business in the world right now, probably. And so to be focusing on that is fantastic. And Charles actually talked about, there's a few projects that have partnered with Ocean. What I like about Ocean is they're very specific about the projects that they actually partner with. Whereas Chainlink, anyone can sort of use their price feeds, and using price feeds is, everything needs price feeds, right? Does everything need a data marketplace? No. And so you're seeing a little bit more of a high quality sort of partnership funnel. And you're seeing from Ocean, projects that have partnered with Ocean have done fantastic growth. And I actually happen to love it because two coins that I discussed very, very early on in their life cycle partnered with Ocean, and you saw the effect was pretty resounding on what happened with these projects. One of them is called Parsik, and the other one is called Alliance Block. And both of those coins went from really small caps to pretty sizable caps. After the Ocean partnership.
So I want to talk to you about Parsik because Parsik, to be blunt, it was a recommendation that I picked up off your channel, and then I moved it across to my channel and to my Twitter, and I was also an investor, I think much after you, but very much an investor in Parsik. What is it about Parsik that you like so much?
So yeah, this one goes back to being a builder, right? Of we've built on multiple blockchains, dApps, and after you've built on blockchains, you see what should be easy but isn't. You see the things that are if you're building a normal web product with normal access to APIs and sort of basic stuff that runs our internet. Then you look at what's happening on the blockchain and you're like, wow, there's so many tools missing for a developer that you have to sort of build around. Parsik pretty much just makes it's a bit of a painkiller, right? It's like, oh, wow, we don't have to build this. We can just literally tap into their blockchain monitoring tools. And it sounds a little bit boring, blockchain monitoring, but what it allows you to do as a developer is really, really nice. It saves you time, energy, and money. And, as someone who runs projects, I can tell you that time, energy, and money is all you think about as a developer and as a project lead. So I saw from the beginning that Parsik was a big painkiller for the devs, and that's what drew me to it.
And so you look at Parsik, I mean, if you look at the chart that I've put on the screen, it's been hovering around 20 cents or whatever, and it's almost like it's 60 or 70 cents. In fact, if we look at the price of Parsik today, it's 60 cents. Too late for those who are watching here today and didn't take your call and then subsequently my call around Parsik. Is it too late, do you think, to get in now?
Yeah, it's really hard to say. I don't think that it's too late, right? Because it's one of those things where Parsik, if things keep going in 2021 as it looks like they will, Parsik could be orders of magnitude bigger. It also just went on a parabolic run, so you have to factor both of those in. And usually, you want to let things kind of sizzle out a little bit, but before you kind of like jump in after what has it done, like a 6x or something in the last couple of days. And so you got to be a little, I've never really had amazing success jumping into things that have just gone parabolic. But then again, I'm kind of a little partial to Parsik because it's kind of like it's almost like a child of mine, like I feel like I feel like
it's not a child. It's your favorite child. I mean, every time I have a conversation with you, somehow Parsik comes in. It's almost like you discovered or you found this kid and you've made this your child now, and your favorite child, not your child.
Well, to me, I like to see good tech win. And I picked them because of their tech. There's no reason, there's no special privileges that they had. They don't have any big VCs. They don't have any big backers. They don't have any like known CEOs. They didn't have any big influencers. They didn't have anyone behind them and that was helping them cut the line to success. It's just the product that I liked. And so that to me is like, I think a good signal for blockchain in general and the industry in general. And that's what's sort of fun about the channel is now I get to take, my vision of what should be valuable and share that. And more people are starting to see the world through my eyes. And that's one of the most fun parts about finding these early projects. And so Parsik is just one of these projects, but I think it's a good example of the type of mindset that I want people to have, which is finding the best tech that people who are executing, people who responded to a few crises, they did it well. The price continued to tank for a very long time, but I believed in it constantly, and eventually they got their reward.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. And then one that I must say I saw the research, and then you did an amazing video about it, amazing program about it, was KeeperDAO. Now, this is something that everybody should be listening to because when you look at the gas fees and the gamification of the gas fees that the miners can do, et cetera, that is a massive, massive, massive problem. It's a massive barrier to building on top of Ethereum. As much as Ethereum does have network effect, the one thing that's not working for it is the gas fees. And I think KeeperDAO kind of solves that problem as a novel approach at looking at that problem.
So yeah, the KeeperDAO is one of these projects where it takes you a while to understand it. And you can't oversimplify it. It takes a while. You got to work through it. Especially for people who aren't so familiar with how the blockchain really works, right? And you got to learn. It's one of those projects that you evolve as you study it because you're like, oh wow, I didn't even know how that was working. But once you understand that, before transactions are executed, they go into the mempool, which is like a purgatory for transactions, if you will, before they know if they're going to get written or not. And when it's sitting there, there are people who are really smart. The really sophisticated, smart, and potentially predatory folks out there that say, hey, look, they're going to go and try to buy this on Uniswap, and they've put their slippage up, so they'll accept a higher price. So what if we bid a little higher on gas, push that price up, and make them buy the token from us, right? And so all of a sudden you can have people kind of seeing your transaction before it's born, before it's written, and they start, exploiting based on how much gas you attach to it. And so there's all these games that can be played.
They're front running your transactions, and they're profiting on the front running of your transaction fees.
Exactly. And that game is forever, right? There's a front running game that's going to be played for a very long time. And I don't see that going away too soon, even with lower gas fees. But what KeeperDAO says is, hey, look, you're front running and you're front running. But guess what? You guys start competing to front, like pretend I'm the guy who's getting taken advantage. Like they're taking advantage of my transaction. But then you have Ran, and Ran says, oh, well, I'm going to front run this because I see I can make a buck off this. But then you have Charles. Charles comes in and goes, you know what? No, I'm going to front run Ran. And what happens is that Ran and Charles start competing to front run me. And eventually, by bidding up the price of the gas, they end up eating away all the profits. And all of a sudden, the opportunity to make a buck off Elio goes away. And so what KeeperDAO says is, hey, look, instead of you guys competing to front run Elio, let's all take turns and let's work together. And let's make sure that every time some dum-dum like Elio allows himself to be front run, that we maximize the profits off that, and that we allow everyone to take turns and share in the maximal profits. And this is this kind of crazy big brain approach, this 5-head approach, if you will, that really I loved, because you're saying that, hey, you're playing into the selfish nature of these front running folks. You're playing into the selfish nature of the people who want to maximize profits and front run off the less knowledgeable. And instead of saying don't do that, you're saying let's do this and make more money off of it. And it's a really brilliant approach, and it's all about game theory and understanding psychology. And I think that the real big brains and the real predatory big brains out there will really gravitate towards this. And that's what I liked about it.
Yeah, 100%. I must say, I think it's a big problem. I also know that it's got some very, very, very big backers. And unlike some of the other calls, this one hasn't had a huge run. I think when you first started looking at it or started posting about it, it had a market cap of about $16 million. It's gone up about 40%. I mean, I haven't looked at the latest market cap, but I mean, I think it's still got a ways to go. So probably worth doing that. And if you guys do want more information, go to Elliotrades' YouTube channel. He has got an amazing video out there. Let's talk about one or two.
Before you finish, Rook is still in an emission phase, and that'll continue through about the middle end of January, where essentially people are using the service to generate and emit Rook, and it's costing them. It increased recently because a lot of new attention to the Rook token. But it was about when I first found it, it was about $60 that would have cost to emit a Rook. So any pop that happened above that, people were just arbing. They were just literally doing arbitrage to generate some return. And so for the next couple of weeks, the price is actually under a bit of suppression. And so that's something to keep in mind, is that it's not behaving normally in the market yet.
That's until I think just after the middle of Jan, so 20th, somewhere around the 20th or somewhere around there in Jan, and then I think that it's going to be a steady price climb. I want to talk to you about one or two more tokens, and I want to go into themes with you, and specifically the one theme that I really want to spend time talking to you about is NFTs. Because great. I think that we've seen Bitcoin store of value, we've seen money, we've seen smart contract, we've seen DeFi, and I think that the next big bet is around NFTs. But let's talk about one or two other gems, maybe some gems that you're looking at that you haven't yet published a video on, or something that you're thinking about, maybe just to give our viewers a little taste. And of course, if anybody does want to do that, you can go to Elliotrades' YouTube channel. He has an amazing YouTube channel, which we'll post in the link below. And you guys can go and join there. He also has a Telegram group, a huge Telegram group. I think 15 or 16,000 people in the Telegram group. Releases a video almost daily, and it's always about these small, or mostly about these small cap gems. All right, so what else are you looking at? We're looking for a gem. We're looking for that, like the gem hunter.
Yeah, right now it's a bit funny, right? Where everything's been sort of exploding in price. And so, there are some opportunities, but a lot of the ones that I've put out there have performed. And so it's not exactly you know, I don't have a gem up the sleeve that I really want to cover right now on the channel, but I will tell you where I'm looking in general, because I think that's, you know, one of the things I really like to preach on my channel is how I find things, right? It's not just here's a fish. It's here's how I found this. Here's how I found this, you know, and the more I've done that, the more I've seen people come back to me saying, "Hey, Elio, I did your process. I went through and I went through your process and I found this." And the more I've seen people sort of come back to me with fantastic projects, and I'm seeing that my community has become a rich source of wealth and knowledge. And one of the things that I'm looking for right now is I think that there's been a big suppression on Polkadot. I think you're going to see a lot of really interesting stuff happen on Polkadot. I think you're going to see a lot of really interesting things happen in insurance. I think you're going to see a lot of really interesting things happen in NFT. And for the most part, you know, I'm always looking for something that has not just become a copycat noisemaker. And so looking for originality to the biggest degree possible. And that can happen in degree, right? There's a project called Bridge coming out soon in January. I think this thing is going to be hugely undervalued. I'm also worried that the launch is going to be overly competitive because there's just going to be so many. I mean, I kind of made this thing pretty well known since a couple of months ago. But the way they're doing the voting for the insurance, they're an insurance protocol on Polkadot as well. So checking a lot of boxes. And then they also are doing this very interesting way to vote. And if you think about what insurance is, you essentially have people who say they've been harmed and they say, "Hey, I have a policy. I've been harmed. I want to collect." And then you need a process to determine if that person's being honest. And then beyond that, you need a process to determine if that person or how much, if they have been harmed, should they be awarded. And so there's a lot of decision making that needs to happen in an accurate way. And so it's not just a simple yes, no. And it can't just be the people who own the most of the token, because they're incentivized not to pay. Right? If you're constantly paying out, if you're saying, "Hey, I own this token, why am I going to pay you out? Why am I going to pay you out?" So there's got to be incentive balances. And if you think about it, a complex and nuanced voting system is really a very important innovation. And so that's why I really like Bridge. And there are many other gems that will be coming to the channel, but you'll have to tune in and subscribe.
Yeah, I must say, I'm also an investor. I'm an early investor in Bridge. I must say, I do like exactly what they're doing. They've got the system where they monitor how the delegators or how the deciders actually vote. And based on how smart their voting decisions are, gives them more and more kudos. So it means that if you're always a contrarian and you're always saying, no, we're not voting with the majority, effectively what happens is you start losing your clout and start losing the amount of money that you earn. And so the spiral continues. And so they get a very powerful momentum of good decision making. And that's, I think, really where the beauty of this protocol is, that they get momentum of good decision making. They take all the bad decision makers and they remove them out the system very early. And so what happens is they just get much better decision making every time they do something. It's a very similar system to the Indian schooling system. The Indian schooling system says that if you do well at your school, you move up the next school. And if you do well at that school, you move up the next school, which is a better and better and better school. And they create this momentum of the cream rising to the top. And that's the problem, or that's what Bridge has actually solved. We are running out of time, but I do want to spend time talking to you about NFTs. I know that you're involved in an NFT project, and I think that what we're going to do with your specific project is that when you're ready to talk about your specific project, we'll actually cover it on one separate show where we talk just about your project. But the NFT space really excites me. And I think that it excites you just as much as it excites me. Tell me a little bit about your outlook and why, out of all the things that you could have chosen, I mean, you've been in the crypto space for a while, you understand it a lot, you make a lot of investments, but ultimately where you spend your time, effort, energy is actually building an NFT project. So tell me a little bit about the thinking there.
Yeah, to me, NFTs are just they're the most versatile asset, right? And it's the hardest to understand. Like people, it's laziness that keeps people out of NFTs to a large degree. But NFTs are just a wrapper. You can wrap anything in an NFT. It can be a single, it could be just a pixel on a screen. It could just be a piece of art. It could be a very complex sort of, basket of tokens. It could be, something that you can actually use in a video game. Could be like a key that you use to unlock certain privileges and access. The promise of NFTs to me are fantastic. The reason why I am personally focused on them is because the NFT is the perfect entree, in my opinion, to the big user base. And, we see this. I was having a conversation with a really smart, colleague of mine that's been working with me on my project. And, we talk about DeFi, and DeFi is quite, in its essence, it's for the whales. It's for the big bag holders, right? It's for the big money. DeFi is a plaything for whales where they can go lock up their crazy funds, get rewarded with insane APYs. They can earn yield on huge amounts of money, and they can sort of take their wealth and multiply their wealth. And a lot of the DeFi stuff it's exciting because those token valuations can be very, very explosive. So there's a lot of money to be made for the small fish as well. But fundamentally, it's an appealing thing for the big whales. Now, if you look at the small folks, the high school kids, the new generation, the types of people who 20 years ago would have been adopting Facebook, would have been adopting Instagram, or I don't know if it's 20 years ago, but about there, right? 15. That crowd has nothing in DeFi. There's nothing for them, right? Because they don't have wealth to go multiply, right? They don't have the wealth to go multiply. So there's nothing for them to do here. So you're essentially, instead of playing a game for the ultra minority, NFTs can serve the ultra majority, right? And you're saying that, hey, these types of assets can be built into products like video games is the number one for me. Video games recently have become bigger than movies and sports combined, right? And so you're looking at the growth of the video games industry. You're looking at how it monetizes. People are buying digital clothing, right? They're buying digital clothing for their characters to the hundreds of billions, almost $200 billion. Not just like market cap. That's new money flowing every single year. And so I don't like to change the user. That's part of my core tenet as a builder. You don't change the user. You build towards the user. And what we see is a resounding evidence that the user wants digital assets inside video games, but also other places. And so they don't necessarily want to speculate. They want to own stuff in a digital world. And so I'm fascinated by this. And I'm also obsessed with the idea that the product that actually captivates that behavior in a product that these kids, that this next generation enjoys using, is the key to 1 billion users.
So I must say, I do agree with you. I think that there's a massive digital use of NFTs. And I think video gaming, of course, is the best part of it. I think it becomes much bigger than that. I think it becomes much bigger than that. And I think the crossover is when you take real world assets and you start adding NFTs to it. And we spoke about this yesterday on my show, but one of the things that I've actually seen in this industry is wines, and people talking about when you buy a very expensive bottle of wine, it's accompanied by an NFT, which is the one unique story from the winemaker about the wine. And that NFT also stores the history of how the wine was made. And so what happens is when you finish consuming the bottle of wine, you still hold the story behind it. And when you start taking that and moving it to art, luxury good, handbags, the next part of an NFT, which I really like, is concert tickets. And I use the word concert tickets, but it's actually not a concert ticket. It's the first part of your concert experience. Mm-hmm. So when you buy a ticket and you have your unique ticket, which eventually I believe will start being personalized to you, when you finished at the concert, you still hold the NFT, which is the memorabilia. And I think what happens then is you start getting this explosion in the world of NFTs. And the way that I see it is NFTs will, of course, start with the video gamers. Just like digital money did. If you the history of digital money started with the video gamers, these guys are way ahead of their time. In fact, Brock Pierce, how his entry into crypto was through the digital gaming space, and he was mining these digital coins, etc. And so I think that the fact that these video gamers today are starting to talk about NFTs and buying these skins, which actually do nothing to the game, they just make you look better while you're playing. That tells me that the next wave of adoption after DeFi or in parallel to DeFi is going to be NFTs. And I think that's, for me, one of the biggest themes of 2021. I think 2021 is going to be the year of NFTs.
Yeah, and I completely agree. Just to piggyback on that, the other benefit I see is because of regulatory concerns, right? Charles brought that up. but there's so much precedent with things like baseball cards, with things like collectibles in the real world, that the NFT to me is the furthest moat that's protected from potential regulatory enforcement. It's a non-fungible. It's in the name, right? It's in the name. It's not fungible. And so
it's not going to be a security. There's nothing wrong with the way you sell it. You're just selling a base. You're selling a baseball card that's digital. So
yes.
I think there's no regulatory risk. And if you remove the regulatory risk, I guess the only thing that we then have to do is start making them very, very, very user friendly, so that there's no barriers to entry, that people don't have to start thinking about private keys and stuff like that and how they actually store it. But I think that 2021 is going to be the year of NFTs. And I think that that's something that we're going to talk about. So I think to sum it up, for the two of us, small caps is where we're going to look in this next altcoin market. And then, of course, I think we're going to be looking at NFTs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get you back on our show to talk about both. And I don't know if it is time to let the cat out the bag, but I would say that it is that Elio and I do have something up our sleeves. It has got to do with small cap hunting. It's something that we're going to launch together to help you guys navigate the world of small cap altcoins, something that we are going to bring to you later in the year. Elio, any closing thoughts, or should we chat again after the next 3 days of 2020 and into 2021?
Yeah, I mean, thanks again for having me, Ran. Really looking forward to chatting about this. I genuinely believe, that finding and learning how to find the small caps forces you to grow and educate yourself. But also, I think it's the more beneficial thing for your portfolios. I believe it strongly, and that's why I try to talk about how to do it. And I see that you've really evolved on your approach too. I remember seeing your content back in the day, and it seemed like it was focused more on sort of the trending top coins, whereas now you're really deep in the small caps. And I feel like that's beneficial to the community as a whole, understanding that getting in early is really a part of the game. And so I'm really excited. I'll definitely be happy to come back and help let the cat out of the bag as to what we're planning. But again, just thank you for having me. And I promise next time I'll have a few unreleased gems for you.
Amazing. And just quickly for our viewers, if anybody does want to get your content, your videos, newsletters, everything else, what do you recommend? What's the entry point? Where should they go?
The easiest thing is my YouTube. I say all the time that on my YouTube, if you have the notification bell on, Elliotrades crypto, ELLIOTRADES, then you will be the first person in the world to know exactly what coins I'm looking at, which projects I'm excited about. I try to really make sure that there's no VIP groups, there's no special paid, consultants or chats or anyone who really knows. Even my research team, I don't tell them what I actually cover. I purposefully keep it as opaque as possible because I really want that notification bell to be your entry and your ticket to having the best knowledge for free. So make sure to like and subscribe to this channel.
Subscribe, bell button on my channel, subscribe, bell button on his channel. I'm a big fan of the Telegram group. There is a lot of noise there, but if you do have time to sift through the noise, it's an amazing, amazing place to be. And then, of course, all the videos that he brings out, we are going to start doing a lot of videos together, but there's a lot of videos that he brings out. A very different format from this show. He spends a lot of time, Ilya spends a lot of time going into the depth of every token, the tokenomics, stuff that we don't really get time for on this station. Elliot, thank you so much. We'll see you again in the new year. It's time for us to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ran. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys. And if you have enjoyed this, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Give me a little bit more love, and let's get this content out to other crypto enthusiasts. Otherwise, we'll see you again tomorrow. And that is for the last show that we're going to be doing this year. We've got a jam-packed show for you tomorrow. We've got Mike Pichello from Block Tower Capital, and he's going to be talking about Bitcoin in 2021 as a big macro theme. We've also got another small cap for you, Bird Protocol, which is an Oracle protocol called Bird. Very, very, very excited to have those guys on. I have been calling that token for a while. And then one or two other surprise guests, which we'll bring to you tomorrow. So I'll see you again, same time, same place tomorrow, right here on CryptoBanter.com. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm Crypto Man Ran, and you've been watching CryptoBanter.com.
Crypto Banter is a social podcast for entertainment purposes only. All opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers should not be construed as financial advice. Views expressed by guests and hosts do not reflect the views of the station. Listeners are encouraged to do their own research. That's the end of our live show. Thank you for calling in and tuning in. Head over to CryptoBanter.com now to access all past recordings and engage with other listeners. That's CryptoBanter.com.